Hello, ladies and gentlemen. We are live on Thursday, October 5th for the Talk Sports Show with Alec Pecano. I will be giving you my upset picks today, as well as some college football player projection, as well as conference standings, and my updated Heisman after week 5. Let's get into it. My first upset this week is Temple plus 14 over UTSA. And the reason this is an upset for me is because UTSA is without their quarterback, Frank Harris, I'm pretty sure, for like the 5th or 6th week in a row. And I've noticed that since he's not playing, they have not been a good team. So that is why I have Temple pulling the upset. My number 2 upset this week, and this is a shocker. It is. I have Alabama getting upset by Texas A&M. The point spread is plus 1.5. Call me crazy, but I think this upset may happen. And the last upset I have this week is Texas Tech plus 1.5 over Baylor. Dave Aranda is on the hot seat for me. And I see Texas Tech upsetting Baylor big time. Now on to my covers of the week. My number 1 cover of the week is Vanderbilt plus 18.5. I think Vanderbilt covers this for one of 2 reasons. First reason being, I don't think Florida can score over 30 points. And 2, Florida has no offensive line, so I can see Vanderbilt blitzing a lot and upsetting Florida and and covering the point spread here of plus 18.5. My number 2 cover this week is Marshall plus 6.5, plus 6. So a touchdown. They're an underdog by a touchdown over NC State. Again, I've talked about NC State a few times on here. And I'm sorry, NC State fans, but you're going to MJ Morris as your quarterback now. And it's going to take a couple games for you to get used to him being the quarterback. He was the 3rd string last year that helped you beat North Carolina. I think Marshall covers the point spread of 6. Now on to my over-under picks for this week. My number 1 over-under pick this week is Texas, Oklahoma. And in this game, I will be taking the over of 60.5. I don't think there's going to be a lot of defense in this game. I think that there's going to be a lot of points scored, and you're safer taking the over than you are the under. And that is why I would take the over in this game. I think the final score is going to be anywhere from 48-45 to maybe 55-48. I don't know who wins. I just know it's going to be a high-scoring game. My next over-under, I will put up on the screen in a minute. I have to make a little, there we go. My next over-under is Bowling Green, Miami, Ohio. I am taking the over of 44.5. I think there will be a lot of points scored in the Miami of Ohio Bowling Green game, and that is the reason I'm taking the over in this game. And now my number one underplay of the week is Maryland at Ohio State. Linus, the point spread is set at over or under 57.5. And unfortunately, I'm going to have to take the under here because if you look at the defensive stats, Ohio State's defense only gives up 8.5 points a game. And I like the chances of the under being hit here because Ohio State's going to score a lot early, and then they're going to rely on their defense as the game goes on. And I think Tagovailoa throws maybe 2 interceptions, gets sacked a few times. Now, here are my week 6 college football player projections. My number one player projection for week 6 is Kyle McCord. I think he throws for over 200 yards and 3 touchdowns with 50 to 65 rushing yards and a rushing touchdown. And Ohio State wins against Maryland. Number 2 player projection. And Vanderbilt fans, SEC, Florida fans, and SEC fans, you can either agree or disagree with me on this. But I think A.J. Swan of Vanderbilt throws for over 160 yards and 2 touchdowns on Saturday against Florida and rushes for 40 yards. And my last player projection of week 6 is Texas QB Quentin Ewers. I think he throws for over 278 yards, 4 touchdowns, along with 60 rushing yards. And now here is my co-host, Robbie Colleton. Here are his upset picks. He thinks that Missouri plus 6.5 is going to upset LSU. I would say yes, because I think LSU is going to underperform the rest of the year. His next upset is Texas plus 6, Oklahoma plus 6.5 over Texas, which, I mean, I could see it happening, but at the same time, I could also see Texas beating Oklahoma. This is the one that might happen. He has Georgia getting upset by Kentucky, and the point spread is plus 14.5. Georgia's favored by 14.5. So he's taking Kentucky to upset them. Now we get to my Heisman list after week 5. My Heisman list at number 5 after week 5 is Marvin Harrison Jr. He moved down to number 5 because Ohio State did not play last week. They were on their bye week. But if he has a big game against Maryland, which I highly expect him to, he will be back in the top 4 of my Heisman. back to my Heisman list. So at number 4, I have Texas quarterback Quinn Ewers. He has been really impressive this year so far. And hot take, he will be one of the top 3 QBs off the board in the NFL draft next year if he keeps playing like this. He may even go in front of Drake May. He may be the number 2 quarterback off the board in the draft next year if he declares. Because there's a laundry list of quarterbacks that could declare for the draft next year. But I think Ewers might go back to Texas one more year. My number 3 Heisman player after week 5 is Washington State quarterback Cameron Ward. That Cameron Ward, I didn't know a lot about him at the beginning of the season, but he's starting to grow on me. And if he keeps playing really well, like I've said, I change this after every week, he will be higher on the list. Number 2 on my Heisman list after week 5 is Sam Hartman of Notre Dame. He had a nice bounce back game against Duke after having a flunker against Ohio State. And my number 1 Heisman leader in the house for the Heisman after week 5 is Joe Milton of Tennessee. This kid can throw the ball a mile. Tennessee fans can back me up on that. He can throw the thing a country mile. My play is to watch after week players to watch week 6 college football. Number 3 player to watch this week, USF, and this is the 3rd week in a row he's been on here. I want more people to keep their eyes on the group of 5, and this kid especially, Byron Brown, South Florida. And the reason I have him on here a 3rd week in a row is because he's special. He is a really good group of 5 quarterback. And if you follow me on Twitter, which I highly recommend you do, it's the Alec Pecano, all lowercase. I post on Twitter. I tweet about stuff on Twitter. And last week I tweeted about Byron Brown, saying that he was the best group of 5 QB in college football. You couldn't change my mind on it. And I want to see people debate with me on Twitter about things like that. So if you don't follow me on Twitter yet, I would highly recommend you do. And same with following me. Go follow me on Patreon as well, as I post my NFL top 18 wide receiver, quarterback, and running back rankings there. They will be posted there today before Thursday night football. And you can see where I have my certain people ranked, and you can tell me if I have them ranked too low or too high. Back to the regularly scheduled programming. And Byron Brown, he's only a redshirt freshman. So he's going to get better throughout the years. I have Joe Milton. I just talked about him in the Heisman. I'm talking about him again. Kid can throw it a country mile. country mile. That is all I got to say. And my number one player to watch this week in college football is Ohio State running back TreVeyon Henderson. I think he's going to have a huge game against Maryland. And now, to the moment you've all been waiting for, my SEC, Big 12, AAC, and Big 10 power rankings. Let's do the group of five first. Here are my American Athletic Conference power rankings after week 5. At number 14, again, I have East Carolina. I've watched their games. They don't look good, impressive at all. They look terrible. I can't move them up until they prove me wrong. Number 13, I have North Texas. They are another team that can prove me wrong, and I will move them up. Number 12, I have Temple. Temple is another team that I was not expecting them to be as good as they've been so far. But if they win this week, they will move up a little bit further in my rankings. At number 11, I have Rice. Rice is an interesting team where I have them. They can move up, they can move down. It all depends on how they play. At number 10, I have UAB. And I still don't know a lot about Trent Dilfer as a head coach of a college football team, but I think if they beat USF this week, that he could put his name on the map as a college football head coach if they beat USF. At number 9, I have Charlotte. I like Charlotte, but the only question I have is, can they win? At number 8, it's disappointing that they're this low. They should be inside the top 5, but they're not. UTSA. And it's because of, I'm docking them right now because they don't have their starting quarterback, Frank Harris. If they had Frank Harris, it'd be a different situation. Completely different situation. If they had Frank Harris, I would have them inside the top 5, but they don't. At number 7, I have Navy. Navy's a team that's been surprising. I have been really surprised with Navy, and just to say the least, Navy is very surprising to me, but if they keep winning, I will move them up. At number 6, I have Tulsa. Tulsa is another team that I can move inside my top 5. I just need to see more. I need to see them play more consistent. At number 5, I have FAU. FAU's here because Tom Herman, I think he's going to do special things with FAU. Number 4, I have Tulane. Tulane just got Michael Pratt back, and I think they're in a good spot to keep moving up my rankings. Number 3, Memphis. They had a big win this past weekend against Boise State. So, and if Memphis keeps winning, you may see them pop up in my top 25 rankings. Because, like I said, my rankings are based on how teams play. At number 2, I have SMU. Preston Stone is a really darn good group of 5 quarterback, but he's not better than Byron Brown. At number 1, USF, University of South Florida. And the reason USF is at number 1 is because I've been impressed with Byron Brown, how he's played. I've been impressed with a lot of other aspects of USF this year. And their updated win total for me now sits at 7. I think they can win seven games and make 7 or 8 games and make the conference championship game. Now on to the next segment. My SEC power rankings after week 5. At number 14, I have South Carolina. They got absolutely dog-whopped by Tennessee last week. And I was high on South Carolina. I thought they were going to finish mid-table in the SEC and finish at the top of their part of the SEC, but it doesn't look like that's going to happen. At number 13, I have Mississippi State. This is self-explanatory. Mississippi State is Mississippi State. Will Rogers is a really good quarterback, but they don't have the supporting cast that other teams in the SEC do. At number 12, I have Alabama. And Alabama is at number 12 due to the distinct fact that they don't have they have inexperience at quarterback, and it's been that way the whole year. Saban, why aren't you letting Why aren't you letting either of the other 2 freshmen on the roster start? Is it because you're scared they're going to fail? Or is it because you don't want to lose eligibility with them? And that's why you have them redshirted. At number 11, I've got Auburn. I could have put Auburn higher if they beat Georgia, but they held Georgia under 30 points and almost did beat Georgia. That is why I have Auburn number 11. And I think Auburn can move up my rankings if they win one out. At number 10 is Vandy or Vanderbilt. I love the way Vanderbilt's going. Clark Lee will never be on the hot seat for me. He was a Vanderbilt alum. I think he's done a good job of Vandy. At number 9, Florida. I'm not high on. I'm downgrading Florida's win total now. I had it at 6 to begin the season, but I think they're going to win under 6 games. I think they win 5 and barely miss the bowl game. And it's because of Graham Mertz. Why do you think? I'll give you a question. Why do you think Graham Mertz left Wisconsin? I'll give you the answer. Because he knew he wasn't going to start because they had a new coaching staff coming in and Luke at Wisconsin. And Mertz knew if he stayed, he probably was going to be the backup to Tanner Mordecai, who transferred in there to be Luke Fickell. So that is why Florida, and also Florida's offense is terrible. They don't have a viable number one receiver. Don't come here and tell me that Ricky Pearsall is a number one receiver on a good college football team. He's not. He's a 2 or 3, maybe a 4, if you're lucky. Number 8, Georgia. This is another one where I'm going to do some explaining. The reason Georgia is at number 8 and they're not in the top 5 is because this is, ladies and gentlemen, this is not the same Georgia team that we've known over the last 2 or 3 years. They have lost a lot of good players to the NFL. I know what you're going to say. Oh, but Alec, they reload. They reload every year with new talent. Look this year. They lost Stetson Bennett last year. Carson Beck is their quarterback. They are struggling on offense. They're not the same Georgia team that bludgeoned teams the last 2 or 3 years. And I think if they make the playoffs this year, they won't make it out of the semifinal. They will get beat in the semifinal. I don't know by who, but they will not make the national championship game. At number 7 is Arkansas. Disappointing team. They can't score. KJ Jefferson has been inconsistent. Raheem Rocket Sanders has been injured. Arkansas, if they can get Raheem Rocket Sanders healthy, and they can get their offense going and win consistently, they will be higher in my rankings. At number 6 in the SEC Power Rankings, and Alex SEC Power Rankings, after week 5 is Kentucky, who upset the Gators last week. I like what Kentucky is doing in this season. I think Kentucky, the sky's the limit. I know they play Georgia this week. I think they've got more of a chance this year of beating Georgia, shocker, than anybody did in the last 2 to 3 years with all the talent Georgia had. At number 5, I've got LSU. LSU, ladies and gentlemen, breaking news. LSU's overrated. I may be moving them backwards in my rankings if they lose another game, which I hope they don't because I want to keep them at 5. But if they lose and they keep losing, they will move down my rankings. At number 4, I've got Texas A&M. I believe in Jimbo. I know there's people that don't, but I believe in Jimbo. That Jimbo can take A&M and make them a really good team. At number 3, and this guy was on my hot seat at the beginning before the season started, Missouri and head coach Eli Drinkwitz. All right, number 3 in my SEC rankings after week 5. Drinkwitz has found his way. He has saved his job. Very much saved his job compared to some people. At number 2, Ole Miss. Jackson Dart is a really good quarterback. And at number 1, Tennessee. Joe Milton's the real deal. That's all I'm going to say on Tennessee. my Big Ten power rankings after week 5. Here they are. Number 14, Michigan State. I don't think they officially fired Mel Tucker, and now everybody's saying they've heard rumors that Urban was in East Lansing on Tuesday. Michigan State fans, don't get delusional. You're not getting Urban. He's not coming out of retirement. Just face it, you're not going to be good for the next few years. But you're at number 14 because I don't think you're going to win another game this year. At number 13, Northwestern. I don't think they're going to find their way in the top 10 in my power rankings for the Big Ten, but you never know. Never say never, because there's teams in front of them that could trip up and lose. But I'm not impressed with Northwestern at all. At number 12, I've got Indiana. And they did make a coaching change after their game this past week. They fired their offensive coordinator. In my opinion, that's a step in the right direction, but I still see Indiana being bad. Sorry to all the Indiana fans out there, but I still see y'all not being a good team. At number 11, I have Illinois. Illinois is another team that I could see being good and moving up, but I could also see them being bad and moving down. At number 10, Nebraska. At number 9, Iowa, and I think, no, they don't have McNamara. Yes, they do. Unfortunately, Iowa fans, I think your season might be done because Cade McNamara got hurt last week. Speedy, well wishes and speedy recovery to Cade McNamara, but I don't see y'all winning that many more games. Rutgers, number 8. Rutgers is at 8. They've been surprising. 7, Purdue. Number 6, Wisconsin. Number 5, Minnesota. And I will explain. I've been surprised by how good Minnesota's been so far this year. At number 4, Michigan. And Michigan is here because of their quarterback and their coach, Jim Harbaugh. At number 3, I got criticism for putting them at number 1 last week and having Michigan be behind them. It's Ohio State. Ohio State's defense is really good. The offense is coming into form. Decently big game this week against Maryland, which you may see in a couple minutes. At number 2, Penn State. Real deal. I don't care what anybody says. They are the real deal. And at number 1, I just said it, Maryland. Maryland is no joke. And if you give me 2 seconds, let me see something. And the last conference I will be going over is the Big 12. This one, I'm just going to go over the rankings. I'm not going to explain. But at number 14, I have Baylor. Number 13, Cincinnati. 12, Houston. At number 11, Iowa State. Number 10, Texas Tech. I take that back. Once I get into the top 7, you will get an explanation to why I have the teams where they are. Number 9, TCU. Number 8, Oklahoma State. Number 7, Kansas State. Kansas State is here because I think they can move back up into the top 4 of my rankings, but you just never know. Number 6, Kansas. Kansas has been a surprising team again this year in the Big 12. Number 5, Oklahoma. They can prove me wrong this week against Texas. If they beat Texas, they will move ahead of Texas. But I don't think that's going to happen. At number 4, UCF. In the preseason, this is right around where I had them finishing. Hopefully, they live up to the expectations and keep playing really well. Speedy recovery, though, their quarterback, John Rice Plumlee, as you know, he's been out injured. Number 3, BYU. I've been impressed with BYU so far. The number 2 team's a little bit of a surprise, and I'm ready for y'all to just go off on me in the comments. Number 2, West Virginia. Neil Brown. I had you as the number 1 coach that could get fired this year before the season started. And quietly, you have started this season 3-1. 3-1. And you're a candidate. Now, if I had to do coaches that will keep their job, you're number 1 on that list. You have proved me wrong so far and keep proving me wrong. For all I care, win 6 or 7 games and make a bowl game. Maybe make the conference championship game against Texas. And speaking of Texas, at number 1 is Texas. I have been very impressed with Texas this year so far. Texas is back, folks. They're for real. They're no joke this year. And now I'm going to share my screen. And I'm going to give you a few picks for Saturday college football. I'll give you 3 today and 4 on Friday. So that's 7 total. I did not do that good last week. I think I went 3 for 5 on my Saturday picks. But here we go. 2023. So we're not doing either of those. Not doing the one. This is Saturday. My first Saturday pick will be Kansas State and Oklahoma. Kansas State, Oklahoma State. So that's Friday. K-State, Oklahoma State. I'm taking K-State to win. Now to Saturday. Army, Boston College. I've got Boston College winning. Washington State, UCLA. I think UCLA beats Washington State. So my picks today were Kansas State, Boston College, and UCLA. And let me do this. I'm staying on maybe for a few more minutes. And actually, that'll do it for the college football stream. I will see you back here at 4 o'clock sharp, maybe earlier, maybe at 3 o'clock for the NFL picks. And I might be doing a fantasy hockey draft on stream during the NFL picks. But I'm your host, Alec Pecado, signing off. See y'all at 4 o'clock. Have a good rest of your afternoon.